Delete that request. Victor didn't even look up when he said it. I froze. My fingers were still hovering over the keyboard. The transfer confirmation was glowing on my screen. White text on a blue background. Proof that I had finally done something for myself. I already sent it, I said. Now he looked at me. Slow. Careful. The way a man looks at something that surprised him, and he didn't like being surprised. No, you didn't, he replied. Because all transfer requests go through me first. The office went quiet. Not the kind of quiet where people stop working. The kind where they keep moving but their ears are open. I could feel them listening. I followed company policy, I said. My voice was steady. I made sure of that. He stood up. Walked over to my desk. Leaned past me like I wasn't there. Clicked my screen twice. The confirmation page disappeared. Now, he said, tapping my desk with 2 fingers, you didn't. He walked away like nothing happened. Like months of my work could be erased with 2 clicks and a tap. I stared at the blank screen. Something shifted inside me right then. Not anger exactly. Not fear. Something quieter. Something awake. Because I knew one thing Victor didn't. I had already pressed send. My name is James Okafor. I had been working at Crane and Pelton Group for 3 years. 3 years of solving other people's problems. Writing reports at midnight. Staying late to fix presentations senior staff forgot. Covering for people who earned more than me and delivered less. I wasn't lazy. I wasn't confused. I wasn't waiting for anyone to hand me something. I earned my place. Operations strategy wasn't just another department. It was where real decisions got made. Where actual thinking happened. Where someone like me could do more than maintain spreadsheets. I had been doing their work already. Not officially. Not with a title or salary. But when operations strategy needed someone to run numbers on the Harlow account, they called my extension. When the quarterly planning report needed another pair of eyes, Victor sent mine. He knew exactly what I was worth. That was precisely why he kept me where I was. The first time I asked about a transfer, he said the timing wasn't right. The second time, he said I needed to show more loyalty to the team. The third time, he smiled and said I was too valuable to move. What he meant was simple. I made his job easier. He wasn't letting that go. But this time, I didn't ask. I applied directly. That night I didn't touch my work laptop. I opened my personal computer. Sat at my kitchen table with tea that went cold before I drank it. I logged into the company's internal employee portal through the public-facing login page. Every staff member had access. Victor couldn't block that. I went straight to the application section. My transfer request wasn't visible under my active submissions. That didn't surprise me. Victor had manager-level access. He could suppress submissions from my view. I had suspected that for a while. But I wasn't looking for the application itself. I was looking for something else. I scrolled to the submission history tab. Most people never used it. Buried under 3 menus, font small enough to hurt your eyes. There it was. Application ID, OS 4173. Submitted. Timestamp confirmed. The system had processed it. It was real. System logs couldn't be edited by a line manager. I leaned back and looked at the ceiling. Victor could make the confirmation disappear from my screen. But he couldn't reach into the company's back-end logs and remove it entirely. Someone in operations strategy could already be looking at my application. And if they were, they would notice something wasn't adding up. When people notice problems, they start asking questions. The next morning, Victor pretended I didn't exist. That was unusual. His whole management style was built on small corrections. A comment about a report that was perfectly fine. A question about a deadline not yet close. Little nudges reminding you he was watching. Control dressed up as leadership. But that morning, nothing. He walked past my desk without stopping. Didn't ask about the Harlow numbers I owed him by noon. Didn't check in during the morning stand-up. He thought it was finished. That was interesting. At noon, he called an all-hands for the department. Pulled everyone into the small conference room at the end of the hall. The one with the broken air conditioning no one had fixed in 2 years. This quarter is extremely busy, he said, standing at the head of the table. I've spoken with senior management. No internal transfer applications will be approved until the new year. People nodded. No one challenged him. I looked at the table. He had just made a policy announcement to cover one specific situation. Mine. But that move only worked if my application hadn't already moved forward. I kept my face completely still. I had no reason to argue. Not yet. I just needed to wait. That night I sat at my kitchen table again. This time the tea stayed warm because I actually drank it. I opened a folder on my personal laptop I had been building for 6 weeks. Not because. 5 days passed. No emails. No notifications. No calls. By day 3, the doubt started creeping in. I would be at my desk and a thought would slip in from the side. Maybe the system flagged it as incomplete. Maybe the application hadn't moved past Victor's access level. Maybe the timestamp was just a draft record, not a full submission. I kept working. Kept my head down. On day 5, my personal phone buzzed on my desk. I almost ignored it. Unknown numbers usually meant insurance salespeople or those calls about car warranties I had never bought. But I picked it up. Hello. Hi. Is this James Okafor? The voice was professional. Warm but measured. Someone who had made many calls like this and knew how to keep them calm. Yes, I said. This is Natalie from the Operations Strategy Department. We received your transfer application. I looked across the open office. Victor was standing by the printer. He was laughing at something on his phone. Easy. Relaxed. He had absolutely no idea. We tried reaching you through internal channels, Natalie continued. But we kept running into issues. I hope calling directly is okay. I stood up slowly and walked toward the door. More than okay, I said. Thank you for finding me. I stepped outside through the side door near the stairwell. The one nobody used because it was always 5 degrees colder than the rest of the building. I didn't mind the cold that day. We sent interview scheduling requests through your manager twice, Natalie said. Standard procedure. But we got no response. Usually that means the candidate withdrew. But your application ID stayed active in the system. That was strange. I leaned against the wall. It stayed active because I didn't withdraw, I said. Right. When the second request went unanswered, one of our coordinators pulled the system log. Your original submission timestamp was clean. No edits. No withdrawal code. Just silence on the manager response end. He blocked it, I said. Plainly. There was a pause. Blocked it, she repeated slowly. Yes. Another pause. Longer this time. That's not permitted under our transfer policy, she said. A manager can flag concerns or request a delay. But they cannot intercept a request and prevent it from reaching us. I know, I said. Do you have any documentation? Anything showing a pattern? I looked out at the parking lot. A few cars. A grey sky threatening rain. Yes, I said. Quite a bit, actually. A brief silence. Can you send it to me directly? She asked. I was planning anything dramatic. Just because something in me kept saying, keep records. I learned that from my father. He worked in civil service for 30 years. He always said write everything down. Not to build a case. Just so the truth has somewhere to live. I went through everything carefully. 3 email threads where I had formally requested a transfer discussion with Victor. His responses, 2 delays and 1 non-reply. A chat log where he told me the portal wasn't the right channel and to speak to him first. Screenshots of the policy page showing the portal was, in fact, the correct and only required channel. The timestamp from my application. A forwarded email from a colleague who had since left, mentioning Victor had done something similar to her. I organized it all into one folder. Named each file clearly. Wrote a short summary at the top. Then I emailed everything to Natalie. Closed the laptop. Washed my mug. Went to bed. And slept better than I had in months. The next day at work felt like standing inside a snow globe. Everything looked the same from the outside. Same desks. Same coffee machine that took 45 seconds too long. Same morning announcements on the shared screen by the elevators. But something had changed. I had changed. Victor assigned me the usual tasks. Asked for an update on a vendor analysis I had already completed. I gave it to him without comment. He seemed satisfied. Good. I watched him through the morning. The easy wave to the finance team. The long laugh with the department head who stopped by at 11. The way he tilted his chair back during calls like a man with nothing on his mind. He had no idea. That was important. Not because I wanted to watch him suffer. I didn't. It was important because it meant I had time. Time to let the right people ask the right questions without Victor having the chance to prepare his story. I had learned one thing from watching this man for 3 years. Victor was very good at managing perception. Give him enough warning and he could frame almost anything in his favor. So I kept my face neutral. Did my work. Said the usual things. And I let the clock run. 2 days later, Natalie called again. I was on my lunch break, sitting in my car in the parking garage where the signal was surprisingly good. We've escalated the matter, she said, without preamble. To who? I asked. Senior leadership. Specifically the head of people operations and one member of the executive team. I held the phone a little tighter. They reviewed your documentation. Combined with our system logs, the picture is very clear. What does that mean practically? I asked. It means this is no longer just a transfer application review. There's now a formal conduct investigation linked to your case. A pause. I want to be transparent with you, because it will affect how the next few days look in your department. I thought about Victor. Easy. Confident. Walking the floor like he owned it. Will he be told? I asked. Not the specifics. Not yet. But if a review team makes contact, he'll know something is happening. Okay, I said. James, are you all right with this moving forward? It was a real question. Not procedural. Yes, I said. This is what should have happened a long time ago. She said she would stay in contact. I sat in the car for a few quiet minutes after we hung up. Then I went back inside. By Friday, something had shifted in the office atmosphere. I noticed it first in small things. 2 meetings appeared on the shared calendar with no descriptions or invite lists, just a room and a time. Victor checked his phone more than usual. Not casually. With focus, like he was looking for something specific and not finding it. His laugh still came at the right moments. But it arrived a half-second late. I had worked near this man for 3 years. I knew his rhythms. He was uneasy. I didn't say anything to anyone. Didn't hint. Didn't let my eyes linger when he looked tense. I just kept working. But I wasn't the only one who noticed. Priya, who sat 2 desks down from me, leaned over during the afternoon and said very quietly, "Something's going on, isn't it?" Priya was sharp. She had been at the company longer than anyone on our floor. "I don't know what you mean," I said. She gave me a look that said she believed the complete opposite. "Okay," she said, and turned back to her screen. I liked Priya. She knew when to let things breathe. That afternoon, Victor left early. Said he had an off-site. But he didn't take his laptop bag. You always take your bag to an off-site. Monday morning arrived like a held breath finally let go. Victor walked in 20 minutes late. He was never late. In 3 years I had seen it happen once, the morning after the company's end-of-year function, and even then he had been in by 8:15. He walked straight to his office. Didn't stop at the coffee station. Didn't wave to the finance team. Didn't do his usual loop reminding everyone, without saying it directly, that he was watching everything. He just walked in and sat down. The door didn't close all the way. It never latched properly. But it was as closed as it would get. No one said anything out loud. But people typed a little more quietly. Conversations stayed short. Then, at 9:30, Victor appeared in his doorway and looked at me. Not a glance. A full look. "James," he said. "My office." I saved my work. Stood up. Walked over. Priya didn't look up from her screen. But I noticed her hands had stopped moving. I closed Victor's door behind me as far as it would go and stood in front of his desk. He sat down. Looked at me for a long moment. "Did you go around me?" he asked. I didn't rush my answer. I stood in front of his desk, both feet on the ground, and let the question sit in the air before I replied. "Yes," I said. "I did." Victor's jaw tightened. Just slightly. If I hadn't been watching carefully, I would have missed it. "That's a serious breach of department protocol," he said. "Controlled. Measured. The voice he used in performance reviews when he wanted to remind you that he held the pen and you didn't." "I followed company transfer policy," I said. "The portal is the correct submission channel. I used it." "You went around your manager." My manager intercepted 2 interview requests from Operations Strategy and didn't inform me. That's not protocol either. The room was very quiet. Victor looked at me the way you look at something you thought you understood and suddenly don't. Where did you hear that? He asked. Operations Strategy contacted me directly, I said. Because they had no other way to reach me. Something moved across his face. More complicated than anger. You had no business going to them without. I applied through the correct channel, I said again. Calm. Even. The application is logged. The timestamps exist. I have records of every conversation where I was told to wait. He didn't speak. Neither did I. I walked back to my desk like nothing had happened. That was important. Not because I was performing calm. I actually felt it. That conversation had been sitting in the future for a long time, and now it was in the past. It had already happened. Nothing left to brace for. Priya glanced at me when I sat down. I gave her nothing. Just opened my laptop and pulled up the vendor analysis from last week. By noon, 2 things happened. First, Victor left for a meeting not on the shared calendar. He took his bag this time. Second, I got an email from People Operations. Not from Natalie. A different name. Subject line, follow-up, application OS 4173. The email was brief. The review was progressing. They asked me to confirm my documentation was complete and accurate. They reminded me the process was confidential. I confirmed everything. Then I went to get a coffee. I stood at the machine and watched the small brown stream fill my cup. I thought about the first time I had asked Victor about a transfer. 18 months ago. The easy smile. The timing just isn't right, he had said. The machine beeped. I picked up my cup. Went back to work. The week moved slowly. Tuesday and Wednesday were quiet in the way a street is quiet before rain. Everyone going about normal things, but the air carrying a particular weight. Victor was present but operating at a lower level than usual. He still ran the morning stand-up. Still signed off on reports. But the easy confidence he usually carried, the relaxed laugh, the comfortable lean against doorframes, had dialed down considerably. He didn't call me into his office again. He didn't speak directly to me at all. On Wednesday afternoon I passed him in the hallway and he nodded. Just once. The way you acknowledge a stranger in a hotel corridor. 3 years of working 6 feet apart, and now a nod. I nodded back. That evening I stayed a little later than usual. Not for any specific task. Just because I wanted to think without my apartment walls around me. I liked the office when it was mostly empty. The hum of the building felt more honest somehow. I tidied my desk. Filed things I had been meaning to file for weeks. I thought about what came next. Not with fear. With the calm feeling of someone who has done everything they were supposed to do and is now simply waiting for the world to catch up. Thursday brought something new. I arrived to find 2 people I didn't recognize already in the small conference room at the end of the hall. The one with the broken air conditioning. They had laptops open and folders on the table. Thinner laptops. Darker. Not from our department. The blinds were half closed but not completely shut. I could see just enough. One was talking. The other was typing steadily. Victor walked past without looking in. That told me he already knew they were there. He was managing himself, keeping his expression controlled, the way he always did. But his route to the coffee station that morning was 4 feet longer than necessary. He was avoiding that room. By 10 o'clock the whole floor sensed something formal was underway. Nobody said it out loud. But people found reasons to walk past the conference room. The bins got emptied twice. Someone reorganized the supply cabinet that had been in mild chaos for 2 years. Priya brought me a tea I hadn't asked for and set it quietly on my desk. I looked at her. "You look like you could use it," she said. "I'm fine," I said. "I know," she replied. "That's exactly why I brought it." I drank the tea. It was good. At 2 o'clock I got a calendar invite. It came from the People Operations address I had been corresponding with. The meeting was scheduled for the next morning at 9. Location, floor 7. The executive floor. The floor most people at my level never had reason to visit. The invite had 2 attendees listed. One was the head of People Operations. A woman named Adiz Nwosu. I had seen her name in company announcements but never spoken to her. The other was listed as Executive Representative. I accepted the invite. Then I closed the calendar and sat very still. This was the part where it became completely real. Not just emails and phone calls and a folder of evidence on my laptop. An actual room. Actual people. Actual consequences. I thought about what I was going to say. I decided I would tell the truth. The whole truth. From the beginning. No performance. No exaggeration. Just the facts, in the right order. That was all I ever needed. The facts were enough. That evening I reread my documentation once more. Not to memorize it. Just to know it the way you know a road you've driven many times, without thinking hard about each turn. I was ready. I slept well. Floor 7 was quieter than the floors below it. Different carpet color. Warmer lighting. Air that felt like someone had remembered to service the conditioning unit. I arrived at 8:55 and was met by a young man named Toby who offered me water and showed me to a room with a round table, 4 chairs, and a view of the city I had never seen from that angle. Adiz Nwosu arrived at 9 exactly. She shook my hand and introduced the man beside her, a senior director from the executive team named Patrick Anand. We Saturday. I expected many questions. The kind of meeting where you prove yourself sentence by sentence. But that wasn't what happened. Patrick opened a folder. We've reviewed your documentation, he said. Combined with our system logs and HR records, the picture is quite clear. He wasn't asking me to fill in gaps. He already had the complete picture. He just needed to hear it from me once, directly. I'd like you to walk us through the timeline, he said. In your own words. I walked them through it. Start to finish. Every request. Every delay. Every moment I was told to wait. They listened without interrupting once. When I finished, neither of them spoke immediately. They let the account settle in the room. Why didn't you bring this to people operations sooner? Patrick asked. It wasn't an accusation. A real question. He wanted to understand. I thought before answering. I was trying to handle it the right way, I said. Through my manager. Respecting the process. I didn't want to be the person making noise over something that maybe just needed more time. And now, he asked. Now I think the right way and the official channel aren't always the same thing. Sometimes someone has to name what's actually happening. Adiz wrote something down. Patrick nodded slowly, testing the weight of an answer and finding it held. Your application to operations strategy, he said. Was it purely about the transfer? Purely the transfer, I said. I wasn't trying to create a problem. I wanted to do the work I had been doing unofficially, officially, with the right title and proper support. You've been completing operations strategy work for how long? Adiz asked. About 18 months, I said. They looked at each other briefly. The kind of look that means they already confirmed this and wanted to see if my number matched. It matched. The meeting ended 40 minutes after it began. Patrick stood and shook my hand. Thank you for handling this with integrity, he said. I took the lift back down. I came back to my desk at 10:15. Victor was in his office with the door almost closed. The 2 people from floor 7 were in the conference room again. This time the blinds were fully shut. I sat down, opened my laptop, pulled up a report that needed finishing. Priya leaned over. Floor 7, she said quietly. Dentist appointment, I said. She pressed her lips together to keep from smiling. I worked through the morning. Finished the report. Ate lunch at my desk. Answered emails. At 2 o'clock, Victor's door opened. He came out carrying his jacket over one arm, his laptop bag over the other shoulder. His face was the face of someone who had just been asked questions they couldn't answer well enough. He didn't look at me. He walked to the elevator. Pressed the button. Waited. I kept my eyes on my screen. The elevator arrived. He stepped in. The doors closed. He didn't return that afternoon. I didn't know yet if that meant anything definite. These processes had their own timelines. I had learned not to read too much into individual moments. But the air in the office felt different after he left. Like something that had been pressing down quietly for a long time had shifted. Just slightly. Just enough. By Friday morning, an email had gone out to the entire department. Subject, Departmental Update, Leadership Review in Progress. The body was 4 sentences. A review was underway as part of standard governance procedures. Normal operations would continue. Questions should go to people operations. Thank you for your professionalism. 4 sentences. People read it at their desks. Nobody said anything out loud. But the air shifted the way it shifts when everyone in a space understands something at the same time without discussing it. Priya read it. Looked at her screen for a long moment. Then got up to make tea without a word. I read it. Sat with it. Then I opened a new email. I wrote a short note to Natalie, thanking her for reaching out when internal channels had failed. I told her that whatever happened next, I was grateful that someone in her department had cared enough to pull the system log and look twice. She replied within the hour. You did the hard part, she wrote. We just paid attention. I saved that email. Not as evidence. Just because it was a good thing someone had said, and I wanted to keep it somewhere I could find it again. The weekend was quiet. I visited my mother on Saturday. She lived 40 minutes away by train, in the house where I grew up. She had a small garden she was always redesigning and a habit of feeding people whether they were hungry or not. I didn't tell her everything. I told her work had been difficult but things were moving in the right direction. She put a plate of jollof rice in front of me and said, "When things are hard, you don't run, James. You stay steady. The ground shifts eventually." She had said things like that my whole life. When I was 12 and struggling with maths. When I didn't get my first university placement. I used to think it was what parents said when they didn't know what else to offer. Now I understood she was someone who had lived long enough to know it was true. I stayed for dinner. Took the last train back. Sat in the window seat watching dark countryside pass. I felt tired in the good way. The way your body relaxes when the hardest part is behind you and finally lets itself rest. Sunday I slept late. Cleaned my apartment. Made proper food instead of quick things I had been living on for weeks. I was ready for Monday. Monday arrived. Victor did not. There was no announcement. No email to the department. No empty chair with a removed nameplate. He was simply not there. His computer was off. His jacket was gone from the hook behind his door. The small framed photo he kept on his desk, a sailing boat on calm water, was gone too. No one said his name out loud. But everyone noticed. By mid-morning, the department head 2 levels above Victor appeared on our floor. A quiet man named Bernard Ease who wore the same navy suit every day and was known for being fair and not wasting words. He stopped by my desk. "James," he said. "How are you getting on?" "Fine, thank you," I said. He nodded. Said he was available if I needed anything. Then moved on. 3 sentences. But Bernard Ease coming to my floor and checking on me specifically was not a small thing. Priya waited until he was in the lift before saying quietly, "He never comes down here." "I know," I said. She looked at me for a moment. "You held your nerve," she said. "That wasn't easy." "No," I said. "It wasn't." She nodded once and went back to her work. So did I. The email came on a Tuesday afternoon. I had been half expecting it for days. Still, when the notification appeared, my chest did something it doesn't usually do. A single tight beat. Like a small bell struck once and left to ring. Subject line, Transfer Request OS 4173, approved. I opened it. It was from People Operations. It confirmed my transfer to Operations Strategy with immediate effect. It listed my new reporting line, my new desk assignment, and my start date, the following Monday. No conditions attached. No provisional language. No subject to further review. Just, approved. I read it twice. Then I sat back in my chair and looked at the ceiling. 3 years. 3 years of spreadsheets and midnight reports and meetings where my analysis shaped the decisions but someone else's name was on the slide. 3 years of being told to wait, to prove loyalty, to be patient, to understand the timing. And now, on a quiet Tuesday afternoon, with leftover rice in the office fridge bearing my name on the tape, it was finally done. I exhaled. Not dramatically. A quiet exhale. The kind you don't realize you've been holding back until the moment it fully and completely leaves. On my last day in the department, I came in early. The office was mostly empty at 7:45. The cleaning crew had just finished. The floor smelled like the industrial cleaner they used on Fridays, sharp and faintly chemical. A smell I had stopped noticing years ago. I noticed it that morning. I cleared my desk quietly. I didn't have much. A notebook. A phone charger. A small cactus in a terracotta pot that had somehow survived 3 years of inconsistent watering and one accidental week in the dark when someone stacked boxes in front of it. I packed everything into a canvas bag. Wiped down the desk surface out of habit. Colleagues arrived gradually. A few had heard about the transfer and offered congratulations. I thanked them and meant it. Priya came in at 9 and looked at my cleared desk. Then at me. "Operation strategy," she said. "Operation strategy," I confirmed. She nodded the way someone nods when a thing has turned out the way it should have from the very beginning. "Good," she said. No speeches. No farewell card passed around. I wouldn't have wanted that anyway. Just work, then the end of work, then something new. I walked out of that department at 4:30 on Friday. Through the main doors. Down the corridor. Past the coffee machine. Past the broken air conditioning in the small conference room. Past all the ordinary things I had moved through for 3 years. I stopped at the lift. Pressed the button for the ground floor. While I waited, I looked back once. Same desks. Same screens. Same afternoon light through the same windows at the same angle it always came through at this time of day. Everything looked identical to the first morning I arrived, nervous and new and quietly determined to do well. But something was completely different. The lift arrived. I stepped in. As the doors began to close, I thought about Victor. His careful walk. His 2-finger tap on my desk. The confidence of a man who believed the system was his to manage. I didn't feel anger. I felt something much simpler. The specific, grounded satisfaction of someone who stayed steady when it was hard, kept records when it mattered, and trusted that the truth, given the right channel, would eventually move on its own. The doors closed. The lift went down. Monday was Operation Strategy. And I was ready.